Speaking of science, I think that there's a very important moment happening right now. We've talked a number of times on the show about Yamanaka factors. These are these 4 proteins that were discovered by Shinya Yamanaka that we found later that when applied to cells, mammalian cells, can actually reverse the age of those cells, reset the epigenetic clock, reset the epigenome, which is the little markers on top of the DNA that turn genes on and off, back to a youthful state. Extraordinary, groundbreaking work that was done that won the Nobel Prize, led to the foundation of several companies. There's a Harvard scientist named David Sinclair. He's a bit of a controversial character. Do you guys know him? I think you guys, one or two of you may have met him. Chamath, you ever met him?
I followed him. I've seen his stuff.
So Sinclair is kind of bemoaned a little bit by the scientific and academic community for being a little too overhypey, snake oil salesman, as some of folks have claimed, because years ago he sold a company to GSK saying resveratrol would reverse aging, and he made $720 million on that, and it didn't end up working, and he's promoted certain supplement companies and so on. So I want to preface with that before I kind of underwrite what he's saying with this next thing. But he's a co-founder of a company called Life Biosciences, and they've reached a major agreement with the FDA to be the first company to treat humans with Yamanaka factors. Specifically, what they're doing is they're going to be delivering these Yamanaka factors. These are these proteins that rejuvenate cells and make them youthful again into the eye. And so their first indication is to actually inject them into the vitreal fluid in the eyeball, and they'll affect the retina in the eye to address people that have gotten blind from glaucoma or one of these kind of stroke-like diseases that happen in the eye. And the expectation with this phase 1 clinical trial is that the delivery of these Yamanaka factors into the eye will rejuvenate the retina, make it youthful again, and restore vision. If it works, which it's expected to, because we see this result happen in animal models, it could be an extraordinary breakthrough, not just in terms of blindness, but in terms of the first human application of Yamanaka factors to reverse aging. The way they're doing it is they're actually packaging up DNA that will make these proteins into viruses, an AAV virus that is delivered into the eye. The virus will then go into the retinal cells and then will deliver this payload for this DNA to make these proteins in the eye cells. And it can be turned on and off. Amazingly, they've created a switch mechanism in it where the protein production, the production of these Yamanaka factors, can be turned on and off by taking an antibiotic called doxycycline. So the person that gets the delivery of this drug takes the antibiotic, turns on the production of these Yamanaka factors, and then theoretically their eye cells will de-age, will get youthful, and their vision will be restored. So phase 1 clinical trials underway. First time in human history, we're seeing Yamanaka factors being delivered into humans. Literally the tip of the iceberg. There are now over a dozen startups that are trying to deliver Yamanaka factors, which are these proteins or some other sort of protein that can actually reverse aging by restoring the epigenome in cells and make them young again. So this is the beginning of a wave of what I think will be the most extraordinary revolution in human therapeutics, and ultimately could lead to, some people would argue the fountain of youth.
Is this just a tox study? So is
phase
it mechanism?
They're not. Yeah, they'll see results. They'll see results, but they're gonna keep dosing low, but you will see results.
That's going to be incredible.
It's going to be incredible. By the way, a number of other folks that are gearing up for phase 1 using, if not the Yamanaka factors, other factors that they've identified or designed as an alternative to Yamanaka factors, again, to rejuvenate the cells. And just to remind folks, the way this works is it was discovered that these proteins, when they go into a cell, they take all of those little markers that sit on top of your DNA that turn genes on and off, and they create a system that causes them all to move to the right place. So it resets the markers so that those cells will start to operate like they're supposed to when they were young again. It's going to be incredible. Yeah.
Do you think, in all seriousness, people's knees or joints, or where do you think it could flow to next?
Arthritis. Yep. And by the way, when applied, and if it's distributed in the skin, they've seen some results in monkeys where wrinkles go away. It literally makes these cells all work youthful again. And so a lot of the damage that happens over time is not damage to DNA. It's damage to the epigenome. It's the parts that sit on top of the DNA that turn genes on and off, and they get moved to the wrong place as you get older. And by resetting them and getting them back to the right place, boom, the cell is young again, the organ is young again, and suddenly you look and act and feel young again. It's an incredible technology. We're just at the early stages, the early innings of turning it into therapeutics.